Jeremiah, 51st chapter, 28th verse. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. All praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem, Rakar Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and teachers of Great Millstone for teaching me this 100% truth about our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, and the true reason why he's coming back, which is to save the elect remnant of the house of Israel from their enemies and those that hate them, and to take over the earth and universe, which was given to him by the mighty, mighty Yahweh himself, the Ancient of Days, wherein our Lord and Savior, Yahweh Shai Mashiach, will establish righteousness throughout the whole earth and universe forever under the kingdom of the heaven of the Israelites. Shalom, Akim, and Aqua. We one day closer to the kingdom. The book of Jeremiah, 51st chapter, 28th verse. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes. That's them Russians. The captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. And the land shall tremble in sorrow, for every purpose of Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. We got more escalation, people. We should be happy. This is joyful, joyous times for the elect of the house of Israel. With the Lord of purpose is taking place on earth. The prophecies of the scriptures are taking place on earth. Jeremiah 51st chapter, the whole chapter is in full effect, right? When you go up to 13, look at that. Jeremiah 51. O thou that dwellest upon many waters, abundant in treasures, thine end is come, and the measure of thy covetousness. Because all they want, like we've been saying, was that Micah 2 and 3. They covered fields. Right? Micah 2 and 1. Woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil upon their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hand. Just like the Renaissance period, when they started this manifest destiny, and then changed and switched it over to colonialism, imperialism, right? The Western hegemony. They losing their dominance. The whore that sitteth upon many waters, that always do regime changes, the color revolutions. They just keep changing the names of it. They overthrow governments, set up a puppet government, and strip the land of their natural resources. Same thing they've been trying to do to Venezuela. Shit, since for the last, 5 presidencies. They always coveted the natural resources of Venezuela. That's what this is all about. And on top of that, that's a tribe of Asher. So, we know they don't like us. It's part of the northern kingdom. And they covered fields and take them by violence, and houses and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage. But what you don't know, just like Ezekiel 38, the Lord has stirred up Gog and Magog, which is the Medes, the Russians. They coming in backing who? Them Venezuelans. Just like they backing them Iranians. I just did a lesson on. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, verse 3, behold, against this family, who? So-called modern-day white man. The ones who go around doing color revolutions, regime changes, claiming that this man is a drug, a narco king. The propaganda is not working no more. And just like Pete Hegseth, Mark Rubio, they all said the law don't apply to them. I got a clip from the Hudson Times and the Times of India at the United Nations Security Council meeting that Venezuela requested because of the actions of these wicked ass Edomites over here in Babylon the Great, a.k.a. America. They trying to do a regime change. They done blew up 4 boats, claiming that they was narco boats, which they presented no proof of. So these other nations calling them out. And guess who the top 2 nations is? Them Russians and them Iranians. Russia and Iran back in Venezuela. Right? They mirroring what America been doing around the world for so long. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. Now, all these other nations seeking peace, but guess who the nation going around starting wars with everybody? Babylon the Great. Psalms 120:6, my soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Who is that? Who is the him? In this instance, it's the tribe of Asher, the Venezuelans, right? Even though they got took over by the conquistadors, like it's going to say in this little news clip, for 200 years, they've been trying to be a sovereign nation. And they ain't going to let nobody take over them no more. Psalm 120:6, my soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. Who is that hate peace? The modern day so-called African American. Shalakia. I'm looking at some Israel. I misspoke that. Who is that hated peace? Peace. The modern day so-called white man. The Edomites. Shalakia Israel. Let me see. Man. My soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. So-called white man. Edomites. I am for peace. Who is that? That's the whole house of Israel. The wicked of our house of Israel, they gonna get dealt with by the Lord. But when I speak, they are for war. Let's get a couple of more out of Psalms. Right? Because everybody exposing them, man. These little lies that they be coming up with, the propaganda, the small hats buying up all the media outlets, and now they buying the media platforms like TikTok, right? CBS. They're trying to use their little influencers. Hey, it ain't working no more. Psalms 10:2. The wicked in his pride doeth persecute the poor. In this case, the people of Venezuela. Just like the Iranians they trying to go at, right? Just like the Shia countries, Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso, right? The colonialism, color revolutions, the spies, the spy networks that you have set up, they all getting exposed, Esau. The wicked in his pride doeth persecute the poor. Let them be taken into the devices that they have imagined. So all these pits you trying to dig, and snares you trying to use, and propaganda you spewing to the American public is not working. The wicked boasteth of his heart's desire, and blesseth the covetous, whom Yahweh abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High power. The Most High power is not in all his thoughts. They do the direct opposite of what the Lord say do, which would mean they what? The physical counterpart of the spirit Satan on earth. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. He said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. Now they came out and said to the whole world that this man Nicolas Maduro is the kingpin, and they will not continue to allow drugs from Venezuela to enter into America, which already came out to report that 7% of the cocaine that's shipped into America come from Venezuela. Only 7%. So what are 93%? What are other 93% coming from? And what about these big pharma companies? They got more effects on the American public than these street drugs. What you gonna do about them? And then like the one lady gonna say in this podcast from Breaking Points, right? This gonna open up, since you claim that to be, that you fighting, you gonna consider drug dealers as terrorists, what about the drug dealers in America? They terrorists too now. So they're going to be able to shoot them on sight. And guess going to be the most of them that's going to be getting popped. Jay, let's continue. Because it's a lie. Psalms 10 and 7, his mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. They lying. They really want a regime change so they can get control of their natural resources over in Venezuela. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. Let me get this for you, though. It's for you, Esau, Edom. And I got to get a precept I had from yesterday that I ain't bring out, Israel. Sorry about that. Ain't nothing changed since the beginning, man. It's been spies since forever. They spies getting caught over in Lebanon, too. Just like they got caught in Iran, the Mossad spies. A lot going on, Israel. Y'all better start paying attention. Babylon the Great is wearing thin. They got a military build-up in the Caribbean Sea. Now you got Iran and Russia weighing in on it. Colombia, they president already weighed in on it. They trying to destabilize South America like they did back in the day. Salaki, Israel. Job 20 and 4. Knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? Talking about these Edomites, man. The Lord didn't put out the word of wicked and evilness that you should not remove your neck from. I just read it in Micah, the 2nd chapter. You going down. Oh, let me get this out of Lamentation because I ain't read it yesterday. Shalaki, Israel. It's for you Edomites, right? The so-called modern-day white man. Lamentations 4:21. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. Everything they do now get exposed. They went to them Venezuelans, they went to the UN Security Council and let the world know if they attack us, we're going to defend ourselves. And guess who's going to back them? The Russians, right? They got laid off with Jeremiah 51. Them Russians going to be a guard, like I read in Ezekiel 38. The Russians going to be a guard to these other nations. And they all going to come up against who? Babylon the Great. The Lord hath put hooks into the jaws of them Russians. Rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken and shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. I mean, we ain't going into slavery no more. Guess what turn it is next? The modern day so-called white man. The Edomites. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. He will discover thy sins. So every law that y'all done violated, that's written in these scriptures, you finna pay for. As a matter of fact, you're going to get double, Esau, because you a wicked motherfucker. Right? Woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. Now, they done came up with all these organizations. The United Nations, the International Criminal Court, the International Court of Justice, right? To oppress and suppress these weaker nations, but they don't apply them same rules to themselves. To turn aside the needy from judgment and to take away the right from the poor of my people, that widows may be their prey and that they may rob the fatherless. They done put all kind of sanctions on them Venezuelans. That didn't work. Damn near the first time when DJ was president, they damn near made their economy collapse. Remember that now. They got all kind of sanctions on them, right? They've been trying to do a regime change, and then they just named Maria Machado the Nobel Peace Prize winner. This the same lady that the people of Venezuela don't even like. They banned her. So, but that's who the American government want to run. Venezuela. Because why? They know that she going to do everything they want them to do. They trying to install a puppet government over there. But you got, like I said, you got a war going on between Ukraine and Russia, right? That Babylon the Great is involved in, that's one. You got the conflict going on in Western Asia, which is the Middle East. The second conflict, they trying to figure out how they're going to go to war with China. There's three. And now they want to go to war over here with Venezuela in South America so they can try to keep their dominance around the world. It ain't going to work. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that may otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips to balance in favor of fair use. We've been telling y'all, we speaking the prophecies of this book. Habakkuk, 2nd chapter. Behold, 4th verse. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yeah, also, because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man. It's the Edomites. Neither keepeth at home. He way down in Venezuela trying to invade their country, talking about they need a regime change because their leader is a drug dealer. Yet you allow 97% of the cocaine to enter into the U.S. by other means. And like the ambassador to Russia gonna say, 87% of the cocaine coming from out of South America comes via the Pacific Ocean, which the people of Venezuela have no access to. So all these lies and propaganda is being shown, made known before y'all even do it now. And look, they say that's why the Department of War say he don't care no more. Because they know they telling lies. And they still gonna go ahead and do what they gonna do. Yeah, also because he transgresses by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Who enlarges his desire as hell. Hell meaning bad time, bad condition. And as death, it cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Why you think all the migrants came up to this country from Venezuela? Because they put all them sanctions on them. I think starting back in 2014. Or 2019, they added some to them under President Trump. Remember, he said, we could have had the oil. That's all it's about, man. They covered fields. Woe to him that increases that which is not his. How long in him, Shalaki. I'm going to read this last line, right? On this last verse, Habakkuk 2 and 6, because the Venezuela ambassador going to say this same thing. And to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. He said the lies that the Maduro regime is a narco-terrorist drug-running operation is thick clay. Shall not they rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them? Now you got Iran, China, and Russia all the way over here supporting the Venezuelans. As I've been saying, as Vladimir Putin said, he gonna mirror what America do. He's selling weapons to them Venezuelans. He gonna sell some to them Cubans too. So that's why they gonna surround it all round about. Go back to Jeremiah. You might as well read 50, 51. You gonna get something. Look at that. Jeremiah 50 and 9, for lo, I will raise up and cause to come against Babylon an assembly of great nations from the north country, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. The arrow shall be as a mighty expert man. No one shall return in vain. Yeah, because you rejoice. Yeah. When you get time, is right here. Read that. Jeremiah 50, 51. And then go to Obadiah. The first chapter. There's only one chapter, right? Let's go to my favorite. Look at it. Look at 10. For thy violence against thy brother Jacob, shame shall cover thee, and thou shalt be cut off forever. It's the second time we done read that they finna be cut off forever. Let's see if we can find it again in the book of Psalms. Let's see. Let me see. Salaki Israel. I just read it today. Let me see. You're gonna cut them off forever. We know that's the Edomites. Salaki Israel. Oh. I seen it earlier today. I should have just wrote it down. Salaki. I keep going too quick. I'm making this lesson longer than what it is, Israel. My fault. Psalms 119 and 119. Thou puttest away all the wicked of the earth like dross. Therefore, I love thy testimonies. The Lord said He's going to do it. And that's what's going to happen. Jump down to 26. It is time for thee, Yahweh, to work, for they have made void thy law. So all the laws that these Edomites keep going against, which are written in these scriptures, guess what? They finna get it. Nah, I can't find it. I'm about to bring it out in another lesson, Israel. It's like, no. Nah, yeah. Let me go and play these clips. Guess what, Israel? I get this. We want more day closer to the kingdom. I just do this Matthew 24 because this wars and rumors of wars. That's where we at. Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, time of war. Ecclesiastes, Matthew 24 and 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled. For all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines. Famines going on. Pestilences. We got a pestilence going on in Missouri. The West Nile virus and killed 3 people, hospitalized about 15. Right? And earthquakes in diverse places. Who is that? That just got hit with them earthquakes. Salaki. I know this off topic, but the Lord is working His work. The Philippines, they got hit with 3 earthquakes in their region, right? You got wars and rumors of wars, Israel. Let's read Micah 2 and 3 again. Therefore, thus saith Yahweh, behold, against this family do I devise an evil, from which ye shall not remove your necks, neither shall ye go haughtily, for this time is evil. That's for you Edomites. Judgment coming on you from the Lord. Everything you do getting exposed. Nothing you do will prosper from this point forward, because you finna drink that cup of Israel. You finna go into slavery. Let's go to 15. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen, as thou hast done. All these little regime changes y'all be trying to do in these nations that don't want to drink y'all wine. Guess what? I've been saying it. The scripture's been saying it. The Lord got a regime change coming for the whole earth. The Edomites' way of running things is coming to an end. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As thou hast done, it shall be done unto thee. Thy reward shall return upon thine own head. Yeah. For as ye have drunk upon my holy mountain, meaning who? The Israelites. Now you're trying to go on at Asher again. So shall all the heathen drink continually. Yeah, they shall drink, and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. Ooh, the Edomites, they finna get fucked up. Shalom.
The Trump administration is on the offensive against drug cartels and drug trafficking into the United States. President Trump has been very clear he is going to use the full power of America and the full might of the United States to take on and eradicate these drug cartels, no matter where they're operating from, and no matter how long they've been able to act with impunity. President Trump has also made very clear he's not going to allow the United States to continue to be flooded with cocaine and fentanyl and other drugs coming from different places, including Venezuela, which is a common route. We are going to put an end to the drug cartels that are flooding American streets with their product and killing Americans. The United States has designated Tren de Aragua and Cartel de Los Salas as terrorist groups, which is what they are. When you flood American streets with drugs, you are terrorizing America, and that is going to end.
What sweet potato does to your dog's stomach. The #1 food for fixing dog allergies, huh? Okay,
Mr. President, let me be clear. The cartels carrying out this assault against our citizens are armed, well-organized, and violent. They have financial means, technical sophistication, and extensive paramilitary capabilities. They are bringing death and destruction to Americans. Therefore, President Trump determined these cartels are non-state armed groups, designated them as terrorist organizations, and determined their actions constitute an armed attack against the United States. Friendly foreign nations have made significant efforts to combat these terrorist organizations and have suffered significant loss of life as a result. The United States has reached a critical point where we must use force in self-defense and defense of others. Based on the cumulative effect of these hostile acts against the citizens and interests of the United States and friendly foreign nations, President Trump has determined the United States is in a non-international armed conflict and has directed the Department of War to conduct operations against them pursuant to the law of armed conflict and consistent with Article 51 of the UN Charter. Although these strikes have been limited in scope, U.S. forces remain postured to carry out military operations as necessary to prevent further deaths or injury to American citizens by eliminating the threat. Mr. President, let me stress, the United States does not recognize Nicolas Maduro or his cronies as the government of Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro is a fugitive from American justice and the head of the vicious narco-terrorist cartel de Los Salos. Moreover, it is the action and policies of the illegitimate Maduro regime that pose an extraordinary threat to both the region and the national security of the United States. We appreciate the countries in the Western Hemisphere that have heeded our call to designate Tren de Aragua and Cartel de Los Salas as terrorist groups, recognizing the threat they pose to the entire region. To iterate, the United States will not waver in our action to protect Americans from narco-terrorists.
The Security Council met today at the request of Venezuela, a sovereign state that has been subjected to unprecedented pressure and the threat of military intervention for several months. The situation is becoming increasingly tense with each passing day. Just kilometers from the country's coast, large-scale U.S. military activity is unfolding, directly threatening regional and international peace and security. Our American colleagues will likely dispute this today, claiming they pose no threat to anyone and that it's all about combating drug trafficking. At least, that's the narrative being actively promoted in Washington. Therefore, We suggest reviewing and assessing the facts at our disposal and forming your own unbiased opinion on the seriousness of the situation. Since August of this year, Washington has begun concentrating large military forces in the southern Caribbean. 3 destroyers with anti-submarine patrol aircraft, battleships, and a nuclear submarine have been deployed to the coast of Venezuela. The total military contingent numbers over 4,000 personnel. Is this preparation for an invasion or merely a routine redeployment and military exercises? The latter would be plausible, were it not for the fact that we are dealing with an independent state, where regime change has been repeatedly and openly stated by U.S. officials as one of their policy goals. Therefore, Venezuela has every reason to believe that its northern neighbor is ready to move from threats to action, deploying its navy. Now, about the presence or absence of the drug threat. American propaganda would have us believe in the existence of the mythical Cartel of the Suns, which allegedly smuggles tons of cocaine from Venezuela to the United States, and whose leader is none other than the President of the Bolivarian Republic, a country unpopular with the United States. He is allegedly linked to drug cartels and armed groups around the world and is poisoning the lives of millions of American citizens with drugs. It's a perfect plot for a Hollywood blockbuster, in which Americans once again save the world. But these claims are completely unsupported by facts. Suffice it to say that the UN Office on Drugs and Crime doesn't even consider Venezuela a drug trafficking hub, given that 87% of cocaine reaches the United States via the Pacific Ocean, to which Venezuela has no access. The White House may, of course, deny these UN assessments. Okay, so let's look at the State Department's own report from March of this year. It makes no mention of the very same Cartel of the Suns, which the entire U.S. Southern Command is supposedly mobilized to combat. Is it credible that the U.S. State Department only learned of such a national security threat in the last couple of months? It's hard to believe. It's far more likely that at that point, American propagandists simply hadn't dreamed it up yet. Nevertheless, to demonstrate its resolve, Washington recently made a show of sinking 4 tiny vessels and claimed to have irrefutable evidence that the boats belonged to drug cartels. However, the international community has no way of verifying this, as the suspects were never detained or charged, and the cargo they allegedly carried, according to the Americans, was destroyed. In other words, the vessels carrying people were simply shot down on the high seas without trial, following the cowboy principle of shoot first, and now we are asked to retroactively believe that they were carrying criminals. Russia strongly condemns the attacks on civilian ships as a flagrant violation of international law and human rights. Such actions fit only into the notorious theory of American exceptionalism, according to which the US can do anything, while other countries can only do what the US allows them to do. We resolutely reject this logic, which underlies the concept of a rules-based world order arbitrarily formulated by the US and its allies. We call on all reasonable members of the international community to do the same. In this context, the increasingly clear, completely unfounded insinuations in Washington about an alleged connection between the gangs operating in Haiti and the notorious Venezuelan cartels are extremely alarming. We see this as an attempt to test the waters in order to eventually align their actions under the umbrella of UN Security Council Resolution 2793, recently pushed through by the US on combating gang violence, on which several Security Council members, including Russia, abstained. We want to warn you right away that the US will not succeed in this undertaking. Don't even count on any international legal legitimacy, even the most far-fetched, for Washington's lawlessness. Colleagues, let's not be misled. Today, we are witnessing a brazen campaign of political, military, and psychological pressure on the government of an independent state with the sole purpose of changing a regime unfavorable to the United States. This is being done using the classic tools of color revolutions and hybrid wars, which have already affected millions of people around the world. Meanwhile, the White House, while consistently raising tensions and artificially fueling an atmosphere of confrontation, is deliberately closing the window of opportunity for negotiations and ignoring the Venezuelan leaders' calls to jointly combat drug trafficking. It's only a short step from such actions to outright armed aggression. Washington must immediately stop escalating under false pretexts and avoid the irreparable mistake of military action against Venezuela. This would risk a sharp, uncontrollable deterioration of the situation, leading to serious regional destabilization and undermining the foundations of peaceful coexistence in Latin America, including the shared vision of the region as a zone of peace established by CELAC in 2014. Instead of adhering to the principles of international law, the sovereign equality of states, and respect for their sovereignty, Washington would then confirm that it views the region solely as its backyard, in the spirit of the notorious Monroe Doctrine, repeatedly rejected by Latin Americans. We express our full support and solidarity with the people and government of Venezuela, and we continue to closely cooperate and coordinate further steps with Caracas to prevent interference in the country's internal affairs. Venezuelans, like other regional powers under constant pressure from their northern neighbor, have every right to determine their political and socio-economic course. We hope that the states of the Latin American region, regardless of the level and quality of their bilateral relations with Venezuela, will demonstrate solidarity and unity in defending their identity and political independence at this difficult time. We also call on all our colleagues on the Security Council, and indeed all reasonable and responsible members of the international community, to demonstrate their support for international law and the UN Charter and send a firm and unambiguous signal to Washington accordingly. Thank you for your attention.
Turning now to Venezuela, absolutely massive news here from the New York Times. Let's go ahead and put this up here on the screen. Quote, Trump has now called off all diplomatic outreach to Venezuela. The move paves the way for a possible military escalation against drug traffickers or the government of Nicolas Maduro. So I'm going to read portions of this just so everybody understands how batshit crazy it all is. Quote, President Trump has called off efforts to reach diplomatic agreement with Venezuela. Rick Grenell, who had been leading negotiations with Maduro and other top Venezuelan officials, but during a meeting with senior military leaders on Thursday, Trump called Grenell and instructed him all diplomatic outreach, including talks with Maduro, is to stop. Trump has grown frustrated with Maduro's failure to accede to American demands to give up power voluntarily and continued insistence by Venezuelan officials that they have no part in drug trafficking. American officials have said the Trump administration has now drawn up multiple military plans for escalation. Those operations could also include plans to force Mr. Maduro from power. Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State, has called Maduro, quote, an illegitimate leader and repeatedly cited U.S. indictment of him on drug trafficking charges. This is insane. This is completely insane. Did you read that headline?
Yeah.
The paragraph said, Mr. Trump has grown frustrated at Maduro's decision not to accede to demands to step down from power. What? Yeah, so we're just calling, we're like, hey, you got to go, man. And he's like, no. And they're like, okay, fine, we're just going to force you out. Why? Because allegedly you're involved in drug trafficking. I mean, look, maybe. But at the end of the day, in terms of the whole drug trafficking thing, as we have covered here on the show, it's like 7% of all the cocaine in the United States. It's nothing. You want to look at a government complicit in cocaine trafficking? It's called Mexico. Do we do anything about it? No, because it's the #1 trading partner with the U.S. and it's a big problem. All right?
You want to look at a government complicit in drug trafficking? Look at ourselves and talk to Seth Harp about the war in Afghanistan, okay? If we're going to be super real here. No, I mean, I think people can't wrap their heads around how crazy this is because they just can't accept that this is actually happening. But it really is happening. All of the, attacks on these boats that they tell us are drug smugglers, but they offer zero evidence of that. And oh, by the way, the widow of one of the people that was murdered on one of these Venezuela boats says he was just a fisherman.
Maybe she's lying. Nobody knows.
Yeah,
right?
but
that's the problem.
There's no reason to trust this government, right? And we know, as you've pointed out, as statistics show, like that would be very unlikely that a boat would be coming from Venezuela with drugs. That's just not really the way that the drug trafficking goes. Does some drugs transit through Venezuela? Yes. Do they get put on these small boats with 11 people on them, by the way, as one of them was? Very, very, very unlikely. In any case, all of this is a buildup to a regime change war. You have Marco Rubio in there, who's been horny for this war for forever. So that's, a major part of this. You have Trump, and I want people to understand this too. This isn't just about Venezuela. Trump's efforts to classify drug traffickers as terrorists and as enemy combatants, obviously there are drug traffickers here in the U.S. And so if you are saying we are at war with these people and these are enemy combatants, guess what? Then you don't have to go through due process. You just can murder them and say, oh, well, they were terrorists, drug trafficker, enemies of the state. So it opens up Pandora's box in terms of the power of this administration, not to mention the way they are very clearly, I mean, this is the most clear indication that they're marching us along the path to a direct regime change effort here.
And no, people, I mean, look, credit to the Times, they broke the story. Although
Yeah.
I will say, having dealt with some of this stuff in the past, let's just say that a lot of people who are against this are going to be leaking like hell against Marco Rubio. I know some of the interpersonal dynamics that are involved here. Rubio himself is the most powerful White House official. This is where I want to stick on. And this is the danger. And you can roll. I remember I talked about Venezuela exactly whenever he was appointed. I was like, guys, this is dangerous. Because the cope I got was, he's changed his tune on Ukraine. He's changed his tune. And I go, yeah, maybe. But what about the issue areas which Trump doesn't care about, like Venezuela?
Stated by U.S. officials as one of their policy goals. Therefore, Venezuela has every reason to believe that its northern neighbor is ready to move from threats to action, deploying its navy.
Mr. President, we come to this Security Council to lodge a complaint, one of the most serious complaints possible. We are here to alert this council to a series of actions that threaten not only peace and security in our nation, but also of the entire Latin American and Caribbean region. Mr. President, for years, the government of the United States has been conducting a propaganda and disinformation campaign against our country. At present, it is undertaking an escalating deployment of military forces mere miles from Venezuelan coasts. The military escalation involves the offensive mobilization of more than 10,000 troops, combat aircraft, missile destroyers and cruisers, assault troops, assets used in special operations and in covert missions, and even a nuclear submarine. The belligerent action and rhetoric of the US government objectively point to the fact that we are facing a situation in which it is rational to anticipate that in the very short term an armed attack is to be perpetrated against Venezuela. That's why we're here, because this Security Council has the necessary means to prevent further worsening of the situation. We are here to avert the commission of an international crime. The Charter of the United Nations provides all of us here in this chamber with the means needed not only to confirm the existence of a threat, but also to be able to preserve regional and international peace and security. Should this body possess the political will to fulfill its mandate, it can use these means. The world is watching you today. Let's not betray those of us who placed our trust in the Security Council, because those of us who signed up to the UN Charter. President, the United States narrative has feet of clay. It bears no relation to reality. And indeed, since January this year, this government has sought to convince the world that Venezuelans right now, today, are carrying out an invasion on the territory of this country, that the presence of Venezuelans due to their nationality alone is contrary to US security, and that they are all terrorists. This is the criminalization of the entire Venezuelan people. Venezuelans are proud of being Venezuelans. We don't seek tutelage from any empire. With great sacrifice, we have forged a country which is not subordinated to anyone. We aspire to have friendly, cooperative relations with the entire world based on mutual respect. But we will not accept insults or threats from anyone. Venezuelans do not yield to blackmail. Those who confuse our readiness for dialogue with weakness are mistaken. In our more than 200 years of history, if anyone believes that they can crush us because we are a small country, they should look back to the past and see that Venezuela was the grave of an empire. The Charter of the United Nations and the doctrine of universal peace protects Venezuela and all countries around the world. As guaranteed by Article 51 of the Charter, if Venezuela is attacked, it will then exercise its legitimate right to self-defense. We respect the United States. We respect its people who desire peace. But we warn the world that if the United States were to attack Venezuela and its people, if the United States were to profane our territory, we have the sacred duty to defend what is ours, what we have inherited from our ancestors, and that we safeguard for our children and our grandchildren.
If I were going to tomorrow, I'd want every memory loss sufferer, including you, to know this one thing. It might sound
Venezuela is ours. It is not the United States. We are sure that the world will understand that in the face of an attack, we will exercise with all of the strength and the love of our homeland our right to self-defense, and even if this struggle takes generations, we will prevail. Venezuela will continue to win peace, exercising its full sovereignty and guaranteeing the right to life. Thank you very much, President.
We express our full support and solidarity